name is Emma and welcome to our fourth episode of Series 4 of The Message Today. This week we're going to be looking at the topic of abusive relationships. And to do that we have special guest Lily Jo, music from 1224 and Lauren will be sharing her story. This is a sensitive topic, so we recommend that your teacher or leader watches the episode first.
If you have any questions from this session, why not write them down and talk in your groups with your teachers afterwards? If you are personally struggling with anything we talk about, please do think of an adult you trust and talk to them ASAP. This might be a parent or guardian, a youth leader or member of staff at your school.
I'm sure you'll agree with me that this has been a crazy year for so many reasons. But let's just look at a few headlines in the national newspapers last month, March 2021. The BBC, Sarah Everard, how a woman's death sparked a nation's soul-searching.
The Guardian, calls to domestic abuse helpline in England up by 60% over the past year, and 4/5 of young women in the UK have been sexually harassed.
Sky News, everyone's invited. Multiple abuse testimonies posted on anti-rape culture website lead to mass police reports.
The Urban Dictionary tells us that abuse is a destructive act towards someone that can cause mental and/or physical damage. Most abuse can leave a person feeling vulnerable. It is important to know that abuse is never okay.
You may remember our bullying episode when our guest Linz West from LZ7 quoted the Bible saying,
"Love your neighbour as you love yourself."
love comes from a place of value, and when you can learn to value and love yourself and others, then abuse shouldn't even be an option. So throughout this lesson, please recognise that you are valuable, and so is your neighbour. So let's aim to love, value and respect ourselves and others.
Let's start today's episode by looking at a video produced by Prince EA.
It's not your fault. See, abuse comes in many forms. Some people abuse your trust, your kindness, your loyalty, your heart. Sometimes we can't see the abuse when it's right in our face because we think, oh, it can't happen to me. Abuse can happen to anyone. It's so easy to blame yourself and make excuses for other people. But please understand, it's not you. But abuse happens everywhere, every day. It doesn't matter your education, skin color, gender. Abuse can happen to anyone. And you know what else? It's not your fault. Even though they make it seem like it's you, even though they may point fingers at you, but they never take responsibility for their own actions. This is another trick of an abuser. They invalidate your feelings. They treat you like you're stupid. They play mind games. They manipulate you. They gaslight you. They make you question your own memory and sanity. This is not love. Love and fear don't go hand in hand. If you have to walk on eggshells, that's not love. If they want you to feel sorry for them all the time, that's not love. If you can't be yourself around them, that's not love. I know it can be so hard to get out of this toxic environment, but you have to look within and find the courage to stand up, the courage to walk away from somebody that is no longer serving you. When you summon the courage to stop serving someone who is not serving you, when you stop being loyal to somebody who's not being loyal to you, if you lose them, that is not a loss, that's a gain. You are not a victim, you are a survivor. I know it's hard to leave, but I want to tell you a story that I heard a long time ago. See, once upon a time, there was a man. And this man, he was visiting his friend's house. He hadn't seen this friend for years, so he was happy to reconnect. As his friend was giving him the house tour, he heard a sound, something crying. So he looked around and he noticed his friend's dog was crying in the corner. He asked his friend, "Is your dog okay?" The friend said, "Yeah, he's fine." "Well, why is he whimpering like that?" "Oh, he's just laying on a nail." "Well, why doesn't he get up from that spot and take the pain away?" And the friend said, because it's not hurting him bad enough yet. You see, sometimes in our lives, we can be in a spot that is causing us pain, but we don't get up and take the pain away because it's not hurting us bad enough yet. How bad does it have to get before you walk away from what's hurting you? I know they may not be a bad person themselves. They're probably just hurt. And yeah, we can be compassionate for them, but we can't stay with them. Yeah, they had a bad upbringing, this or that, but it's not your job to fix them. It's a full-time job to fix yourself. Plus, you can't fix them. All you're doing is giving them more permission to abuse you. You have so much to offer this world. So much courage, so much beauty, so much strength. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to move on and get up from that spot that's hurting you.
So what is an abusive relationship? We asked our students from across the UK and this was their response.
An abusive relationship is physical or emotional abuse, someone who manipulates you and takes control over what you can think and do. Horrible. I hate them.
Well, it's a relationship that involves abuse, whether that's mental, physical or emotional. Just people that want to feel bigger than themselves. They get someone that they trust to just make them feel small.
Abusive relationship doesn't have to be physically abusive, just where it's mainly one-sided. One person's putting the other person down, whether it's emotionally, like verbally, physically, just making that person not feel great.
Whether you're getting punched and thrown about because they're angry with you, or they're throwing insults at you 24/7 just because they feel bad about themselves.
I think an abusive relationship is just a relationship where you might like each other a lot, but deep down you know that it's not good for you. Could be affecting you mentally, or could be like physical abuse.
Someone in a relationship will use their power over someone, mistreat them very unfairly, inhumanely, constantly over and over again.
There's different types of abuse, because there's like mental abuse where they make them feel lesser than, or they like make them not feel good within themselves. We should build each other up and not tear each other down. There's physical abuse, obviously hurting each other, punching each other, that's not okay. And sexual abuse, obviously like forced sexual acts is not okay. So I feel like abused relationships are such a an abusive relationship is such a broad term for so many different types of abuse.
They take their issues from their day back to their relationship where it shouldn't be, as the issues are during the day and not in their relationship, and then that's when I think it can get a little bit physical and anger starts to come out.
I think an abusive relationship is just a really unhealthy relationship. Sometimes it can be hard to get out of, but if you feel like you are in one, you should definitely seek help.
Thanks, guys. Up next to share their thoughts on today's topic is Lily Jo.
Hi there, my name's Lily Jo and I'm a singer-songwriter based here in Manchester. Take a look at some of the things that I've been up to over the last couple of years. So today we're talking about abusive relationships. Teens Health tell us that healthy relationships involve respect, trust, and consideration for the other person. On the other hand, abusive relationships don't have these qualities. Instead, they involve mistreatment, disrespect, intense jealousy, controlling behaviour, and even physical violence. As a qualified counsellor, I come across young people struggling from abusive relationships, and this can cause trauma, it can affect your self-esteem, it can create self-harm tendencies and anxiety and stress. So back in 2016, I decided to set up an online mental health resource called the Lily Jo Project. The Lily Jo project was designed in order to help you begin to help yourself. It's really important that you know that there are people who care for you, that there are people who want to support you if you are willing to reach out for help. You're not alone. Make sure you check out the Lily Jo project if you need some further advice, information and support.
The Children's Society tells us that abuse in teenage relationships is when you begin to feel scared or controlled by the person you're with. You may feel confused because it feels like a loving relationship, but often only when you behave in a certain way. This can happen at any age, regardless of gender.
Some of the most common signs of teenage abuse are emotional abuse, online abuse, controlling someone's finances, snooping, sexual abuse, and physical abuse.
You don't have to be living with someone for a toxic relationship to develop. Some young people experience relationship abuse while living with their parents or carers. It can happen in any relationship and can continue once the relationship is over. It can happen to both girls and to boys.
Many abusive behaviors in relationships are against the law. If someone hits you, it's an assault. If they force you to carry out sexual acts or force you into sex, this is sexual abuse or rape.
Being threatened or harassed by a partner is just as much a crime as violence from a stranger. If this is happening to you, do not confront your partner on your own. Please speak to a trusted adult or the police. The most important thing to remember is that it is never your fault.
Let's hear some facts and stats from Destiny and Adam.
Verywellfamily.com state that 60% of American teens experience psychological or verbal abuse during their dating relationships. 18% of teens report physical abuse and nearly 20% experience sexual abuse. Other types of dating abuse included digital dating violence, cyberbullying, and financial abuse.
Research by Women's Aid and Cosmopolitan found that a third of teenage girls in the UK knew they'd been in an abusive relationship. However, when the remaining 2/3 were asked more detailed questions about their relationships, it became clear that 64% of them had in fact experienced abusive behaviour, but they did not recognise it as such.
If you're wondering why so many people stay in abusive relationships, we might have an answer. When subjected to stress or trauma, your body releases a stress hormone named cortisol. Victims of abuse are often subjected to huge doses of this, with intermittent periods of kindness from their abuser, which cause the release of dopamine, a hormone usually associated with rewards and one that can be seriously addictive. This pattern of stress and reward can result in a phenomenon known as trauma bonding, when a victim of abuse may actually feel attached to their abuser and even defend their actions.
A Home Office report for safeguarding in Bolton reported that violence can have long-term effects on a teenager's mental and physical health. It may lead to depression, drug and alcohol problems, obesity, and sexual risk-taking behaviour. And sexual abuse can lead to early or unwanted pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections.
Statistics gathered by the Mankind Initiative state that both men and women are less likely to tell someone they know personally if they're a victim of abuse. Only 26.1% of men and 33.4% of women are likely to tell the police. It's vitally important that you speak to an adult that you trust as soon as possible if you're experiencing or witnessing any kind of abuse, because there are people who care about you who can help.
Disrespectnobody.co.uk have a strapline. There's a person attached to everybody. Respect both. Healthy relationships are all about respecting each other. You should feel loved, safe, and free to be yourself. Disrespectful and unacceptable behaviour can come in many forms. It isn't limited to just physical behaviour, it can also go way beyond that. If someone makes you do something that you don't want to do, makes you feel scared, intimidated, or tries controlling you, remember it's not acceptable and it's never okay.
We have asked our students from around the UK whether they have ever experienced or witnessed an abusive relationship. Let's see what their response was.
I'm glad to say I haven't, and I hope to never experience it. but I know that there's plenty out there, and I think it's really upsetting knowing that there are so many out there and hearing them on the news all the time.
I don't think so. I don't think I've witnessed an abusive relationship.
I would say I've witnessed one, and this more mental wise, like when people break up with people and they're like, I'll kill myself if you break up with me. That's like, it's just toxic. Like, people need to be happy within themselves before they get into a relationship, in my opinion, because you're supposed to build each other up and make each other even more happy. You shouldn't depend on anyone for your happiness.
Not a lot, but it's not as predominant where women hit men, because men are supposed to be the strong one, and if they seem to be hit by a woman, then they don't want to seem to be smaller or weaker, so they don't necessarily report that or want to report it. But it does happen, and for anyone to go through any sort of abuse, especially in a relationship, it's just awful.
It could be like your boyfriend, but it could also be family members. I was abused by my mother, emotionally and physically, and with my boyfriend, well, my ex-boyfriend now, it was more emotional. It's not good, but then again, it just makes you a better person. It makes you stronger at the end.
I've seen like my friends who have been put down by the boyfriends, and like from an outside perspective, I notice it, but because they're in the relationship, they don't see it, but I do.
I used to be with this guy who sometimes wouldn't let me go and see my friends, or wouldn't let me wear certain things when I was going out to see my friends, or message some of my guy friends, or just like, yeah, it wasn't nice.
I was driving to meet my sister in Manchester, and saw this, she was about 20, getting strangled and throttled and thrown to the floor by a guy that we just saw. So we pulled up, checked on her. Turns out it was a boyfriend, and he had done this loads of times. So, you know, we did what anyone would do, just gave her some water, spoke to her, and then someone else pulled up and offered to take her home. It wasn't a nice sight to see, and for me, after seeing that, it definitely made my opinion change on the matter, because I used to just think, oh, why don't people just leave? You know, they can just leave, but not really. When it's difficult for a person to leave the situation, when it's a long-term like situation, because they think in their mind that, oh, it'll get better, oh, it's the last time, he won't do it again, or she won't do it again. But if I could give advice to anybody that was going through anything like that, it's, you know, you don't have to be in that relationship. You know, there's so much support out there, and you might just not know it. You just have to look for it.
You may have heard about Everyone's Invited, which started in June 2020. It currently holds around 15,000 experiences from abuse victims on the groundbreaking new website.
So Masara, the founder of the movement, began sharing her own personal experience on rape culture via Instagram. Within a week, she received and shared over 300 anonymous responses, reaching over 10,000 people. This movement was created in a response to these stories to reveal the urgent need to tackle these patterns of abuse that exist today.
With over 1 million views across various social media platforms controlled by the BBC, The Social is a new short film about abusive relationships. It's a powerful story about how an abusive relationship can develop over time, even when things look perfect to your followers and friends on social media.
I would definitely recommend you watching this in order to identify the signs of an abusive relationship. The digital story is presented in a phone takeover format, so you can follow along directly through the phone of the lead character Zara as her boyfriend Ed's behaviour becomes increasingly manipulative and aggressive over time.
The film Control is a fictional account of unfolding emotional and physical abuse in a relationship, and some viewers might find some of the scenes triggering or upsetting, so we recommend that you watch it with an adult that you trust. You can find Control on YouTube or on the BBC website.
Let's check in with Lauren for this week's Quote of the Day.
Your value doesn't decrease based on somebody's inability to see your worth. I love this. No matter how anybody treats you, your value will never decrease. You are amazing, a masterpiece created for good works. Will you choose to believe this truth today?
Right, let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought that your friend is in an unhealthy relationship? Teenshealth.org helps us answer the question, what are the signs that a friend is being abused? This was their answer.
Number 1, unexplained bruises, broken bones, sprains or marks.
Number 2, excessive guilt or shame for no apparent reason.
Number 3, secrecy or withdrawal from friends and family.
Number 4, avoidance of school or social events with excuses that don't seem to make any sense.
A person who is being abused needs someone to hear and believe him or her. Maybe your friend is afraid to tell a parent because that will bring pressure to end the relationship. People who are often abused often feel it's their fault, that they asked for it, or that they don't deserve any better. But abuse is never deserved.
Help your friend understand that it is not his or her fault. Your friend does not deserve to be mistreated. The person who is being abusive has a serious problem and needs professional help.
A friend who's been abused needs you to listen and support without judging. It takes courage to admit being abused. Your friend also needs your encouragement to get help immediately from an adult, such as a parent, family member, or health professional.
This week, sharing his story, we have our very own amazing Quote of the Day Queen and Northwest Respect Me tutor, Lauren Job.
Don't worry guys, I'm back. My dad was quite an angry and violent person, so he would beat me up quite regularly and put me in this cupboard underneath the stairs. And as you can imagine, as a young person, that really affected me. But what it taught me was that was how guys treat girls, that's how you should be treated. That's all I'd ever known from my dad. And so when I was older, I was 14, I got into a relationship with this guy. He was 21. Let's call him Dean for the purpose of this video. And he just wooed me. I always wanted to know that I was loved. I wanted to be someone's princess. I wanted to be valued and told that I was beautiful, and he did all of those things. He bought me nice things, he wooed me, he looked after me, and the first 6 months of our relationship were amazing. It was great fun. He had his own place, so I'd go round, hang out with him. It was amazing. And then he started to change a little bit. He started to say things like, Lauren, if you love me, then you'll do this for me. And I didn't really feel comfortable doing some of the things that he asked. Some of the things he asked were, if you love me, you'll take this cocaine and you'll snort it. And so at the age of 14, I was snorting cocaine, I was smoking weed, I was getting drunk, and I was doing all of these things because Dean was telling me that this is what I should do if I loved him. And then it got to the question of, if you love me, then you'll have sex with me. If you love me, then you'll do these sexual things. Now, at the age of 14, I wasn't ready to have sex. I didn't want to have sex. However, he kept pushing me and he kept pressuring me and he kept saying, if you love me, you'll do this. And so this one night I laid there and he pinned me down on the bed and had sex with me. And I'd not given my consent. In fact, I'd said regularly, no, I don't want to do this, yet he still continued. What I didn't say before is that he would sometimes hit me. He would punch me, he would throw me downstairs. I'd regularly have like fractured ribs and stuff like that. To be honest, when that was happening to me, I knew that it was wrong and I knew that I needed to get out of that relationship, but I was so scared about what would happen to me if I did. So I continued to just let it happen. And as a result of it, I found myself a few months later in the bathroom with a pregnancy test, finding out I was pregnant at the age of 14. Now, that's not how I'd planned my life. It's not how I had expected my life to be at the age of 14. I was so scared. I wasn't ready to be a mom. But more than that, I was actually scared of what Dean's reaction was going to be. I finally plucked up the courage to tell him. I was on the top of the stairs and I said, Dean, I'm pregnant. And he went ballistic. He actually threw me down the stairs. And as soon as he threw me down the stairs, I felt this instant pain in my body. I knew that something was wrong. I didn't really know what was happening. I just knew that something wasn't right because I was experiencing so much pain. And as I was in hospital, this nurse said to me, "I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you're actually in the process of having a miscarriage and you've got broken and fractured ribs." And she sat down with me and she said, "Lauren, you can tell me what's honestly going on. I'm here to help you. We can get you the right help." But in that moment, I was so scared. I freaked out because I knew that if I told her what actually had happened, then Dean would get worse. And to be honest, I don't know what he would have done. A few days later, I got discharged from hospital. And at this point, I was living in foster care because my mum had just been sectioned in hospital. And so it was actually a really good way of me escaping Dean. I knew that as soon as I left that hospital, I needed to somehow get out of this relationship. So moving into foster care was a great way of me doing that because it meant that I moved to a different place, a different area, and he didn't know where I was. What I realised was actually what I'd experienced was abusive behaviour. It was totally unacceptable. And when I became a Christian and I realised what God said about me, he said that I am his masterpiece and that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, I realised that I deserve better. That I deserve to be treated better, but I also deserve to treat myself better as well. And so I moved forward and I started to get help. I got therapy, I started to go to church, I prayed, and God has really healed me and helped me. What I would say to you today is that if you've experienced or experiencing anything that I've talked about, then please make sure you speak to an adult that you can trust. What I experienced was totally unacceptable and actually illegal. And looking back, I should have gone to the police and should have reported it. They are there to help us. In the Bible, it says that God loves the whole world. That includes me and it includes you. And what I would say to you today is that he loves you so much and that your life is valuable. I love this quote. It says, "Your value doesn't decrease based on somebody's inability to see your worth." That's true for you today. My name is Lauren and this is my story.
Even though we sometimes find it hard to see that our situation can change, Lauren's story encourages us that we can have hope. The next video by Mark J. the Poet was written for anyone who struggles with self-doubt and fear. It's for those who have felt the nudge to chase a greater call and who would dare to dream despite the obstacles. It's called I Dare You.
He tries, he fails. He doubts, he fears. He hurts, he cries. Can't look in the mirror. He's always been picked last. Rejection occurs in slow motion, but joy in fast forward. She feels, she falls. She frowns, she faints. Wishes she had a different body shape, a different face. Her fear is herself. Believes she needs to trace someone else or erase herself. Can't face herself. Does she know she's in a race with herself? Fear can knock the lights out of dreams if you're stuck in portrait mode. But there's so much more to you if only you tap into panoramic view. Zoom out, take in the entire landscape. You're a high-resolution image, no filter. Don't let negativity filter your dreams into the wastebasket of passivity. I hear a lot about bullying in schools. Listen, demeaning someone else's dreaming does not supply you with meaning. Those that label are those who don't know how to label themselves. Those who demean others are those who fear themselves. Even toddlers can tell Instagram stories that only live 24 hours. But dreamers leave legacies that live on when they pass away. Steer clear of the wrong team. I'd rather have one friend who inspires me to dream than 10,000 followers who only like me when I'm entertaining. Reality is liking what you see. Dreaming is when you like what you don't see yet. It's when you dare to believe even when the crowd doesn't agree. They say, in your dreams. That's right, because the reality they now see was birthed in a dream that was once unseen. Label them scribbles, they'll give you art. Label them slow, they'll give you wisdom. Label them dumb, they'll dumbfound you. Label them weird, they'll give you creative. Label them nerd, they'll give you genius. like an athlete dusting off his jersey, refusing to let a slump define him. I'm not sure if they become stronger or smarter, maybe both. Mentally engraved memories of hurtful words become their daily inspiration as they disapprove them. Every put down, disproven. Chickens can fly only short distances, they're for the ground, but eagles spend their lives scraping the sky. The great things you achieve don't make you valuable. They just confirm you already are. You're great because you're you. Great isn't something you become, it's something you unfold, unleash, unlock, and release. You are like a trend, waiting to be discovered. A Picasso masterpiece that hasn't been uncovered yet. I once asked a group of people, what's the greatest invention of all time? They said smartphone, laptop. Well, here's the truth. The greatest invention of all time is you. You are a dream come true. So wake up and dream. I dare you.
As we said in the beginning, if you have any questions from this session, why not talk about it in your groups afterwards? Also, if your teacher or leader would like to extend this session, you can access the questions that accompany this episode by following the link in the description on YouTube.
If you are personally struggling with any of the content, please do think of an adult that you can trust, that you can talk to ASAP. Don't wait.
The Find Help page on Everyone's Invited website signposts you to an amazing selection of charities and websites that can inform, equip and offer conversation to anyone struggling with abuse, from the NSPCC to Rape Crisis and Survivors UK. Don't forget to check out the Lily Joe Project, and remember Childline is there to help you too.
Many of the bands that you see on here are releasing new content on their socials every week. Every month, all the Message Trust bands get together for one great, massive show called Higher Life. The band's YouTube channels are on the screen, so why don't you check them out?
Today, we're going to leave you with Fix Me by 1224. From Daniel and I, it's goodbye, and we'll see you next week.
I'm with you, what you broke.
Broken inside, I'm 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 broken.
Never thought it would end up this way. She had the future in place. She was top of the grade, best in my school. I never thought this would change. It's almost been 2 years since her father left. She starts to stress because she thought she knew her father best. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know where to go. She looks for love from boys, but none of them really wanna know. She started taking drugs. She's trying to cloud the pain, but when the sun comes up, the clouds will start to fade away. She's looking for a cure, a special antidote. Cause when the drugs fade, she's feeling like she cannot cope. But she's so desperate, yo, I think she's letting go. On her knees crying, God,
My life's so low, I'm living on the edge, and I don't know what I'ma do. I'm so alone, I try my best. I need you to hit me, 'cause I'm so I need you, Lord, just to change my life. I need you, Lord, you can make it right. I need you, Lord, I need you to Wars on in my home. Dinner table flipped over cause my pops couldn't control his own hormones. Now it was something small, someone must have said, and bye-bye, he was gone just like the dead. Is this really it? My parents separate. I'm feeling shattered like the glass underneath my feet. I'm feeling brokenness, unlike I ever have. I start to question, is the sun ever coming back? As I was in the depths, that's where he found me. I could feel him like a fire all around me. My tears breaking out, I saw letting go. Give me the missing pieces, 'cause my life's so rough. I'm living